Hello, everybody. This is Dr. Kashif Abdullah. It is April 23rd, 2020. Thursday, Thursday, April 23rd, 2020. We are still dealing with the pandemic, and let's see what today's numbers are like. Not too much has changed from yesterday, per se. Oh, actually, let me switch screens. Oh, if anyone has any questions, feel free to ask. I'll just say hello there. All right, let's see. Switch the screens. There we go. All right, so let me refresh the screen here. And let's see. There is now about approximately 2.6 million people who have tested positive for the COVID-19 disease, with let's see, daily increases that are beginning to diminish slowly by slowly over the world. So hopefully we're seeing a peak. We don't have enough data to say that, but it looks like we are beginning hopefully to see a peak. And these are just daily increases. So the daily increase is just 74,000 people every day in the world are saying yes, they're testing positive for COVID-19. In the US, which is the highest number of COVID-19 patients, there is 856,000 cases, with 47,000 deaths, the most amount of deaths I believe in the world. And there's maybe a slight negative trend down in the daily cases. So it's better than increasing. It's not, and it's slowly going down. It's just really quick. Is any questions? No, not okay. Let's see. In Spain, we're seeing a general trend is down, and Italy, the general trend is also down, coming lower and lower. France is also likely going down. Germany is also trending down. The UK is sort of trending, about peaking. Turkey is sort of trending down. Iran, they are trending down, but that's their numbers. Russia is still in the peak area. Belgium is basically trending down. Canada actually looks like they're either trending up, actually, or peaking out. I don't know the numbers. They don't have as many deaths as others, but they're a smaller country population-wise. Netherlands, they're trending down. Switzerland, they're trending down for sure. Portugal, sort of trending down. India is trending up, not down. Now, I remember I spoke to somebody here about India, and they were wondering about the cases increasing or decreasing, or about weather. That was yesterday's topic where people were talking about. And they were just saying that, maybe because of climate, or maybe because of what have you, that there's something about the number of ICU beds. There's only 250 ICU beds according to this one person. I don't know if that's 100% true, but he said, or they said, that there's only 250 beds, and India has 15 million people. That's way too low amount of ICU beds just for 15 million people in general. But they were saying that those beds are not being used. Maybe they're doing something right. I don't think so, because their numbers are increasing. Let's see if there are any more questions. No. Peru is Sweden is also okay. What is this? I don't know who's calling me right now. I don't have time to call. No, decline that. Let's see, Sweden is basically flat, but their number of cases is very low. They only had like 500, 600, so that's very good, actually, if you look at the raw numbers. Ireland is going down, and Austria is basically nothing. So Austria and South Korea, where's South Korea and Austria? They have basically this same kind of picture. Both of them look almost identically the same. So both of them, and what they did, well, not identically same, but they're both reduced their numbers a lot. And both, what they likely are doing is contact tracing. Eventually in the US, the same thing is going to have to be done. And I think it's not going to come from the federal government side. It's going to come from, it's going to have to come from individual states, where the federal government, there is no leadership. It just, there's rudderless. And each governor will have to stay how they want to treat this pandemic. And I would say California and these western states, I think, are doing a good job. If we go to the U.S. map, I'll show you why I'm saying that. Let's see if there's any questions real quick while I go. No. So if we look at the U.S., you'll see the biggest or the brightest red spots. That's the most number of deaths, unfortunately. Oh no, cases. This is for cases. Is in the Northeast, and in Detroit and Chicago and Atlanta and New Orleans here. These are the big ones, and also Colorado. And I think this is New Mexico. Sorry, I'm not sure. What is this? This is likely Phoenix area. The Phoenix area is very heavily dark, but the western provinces, western states, are doing well, especially California. And so I think that's because of the public distancing, social distancing, and the public health measures taken in the state. Much more progressive than the rest of the country. And I would imagine contact tracing might be starting here more than anything else. And let's see, any questions? I'm going back and forth. No questions. And coronavirus is, I was recently reading in the news, well, I heard in the news that there was a city in the United States that's very famous, that it's Las Vegas. They were thinking of opening up, or their mayor was thinking of opening up the city, but the governor, who is actually in charge, is saying, no, we're not going to open up the state to any form of travel, or not travel, but just life in general. That would be too dangerous. And actually, Nevada's doing really well. They've actually controlled their level of coronavirus significantly. And if you think about it, look, if you look, actually, Utah is worse off shape than Nevada. So, Nevada actually did the right thing. They closed down the Las Vegas, and I would imagine also Reno, pretty quickly to avoid the spread of the virus. And they're doing a good job, just like California is doing a good job. But let's see, what the province or states? I would say it's more that, of course, the least populated states are showing less of it. But let's see even what Alaska's doing, but not too bad. So, and then Alaska, you have to think about this. It's cold in Alaska, and people think it's so much warmer. The warmest places, COVID-19. Think about Alaska. That's a cold place, but because the population is not so heavily densely packed in Alaska, the amount of numbers are not as high in Alaska. So, let's see. I was just looking at the various news items. Is there any questions? No questions. Okay. So, oops, I don't want that. So, what else? There's some issues of some people saying some early reports are now beginning to show there are some vaccines that are helping monkeys against the coronavirus. Yeah, I don't know how much weight to give that. We have to find a vaccine that protects people. So maybe this is the beginning. Who knows? But I can say I was listening to another talk by another person. There was another YouTube video, and they were mentioning how Australia is beginning to ease their. I think Australia and New Zealand are both beginning to ease their social distancing measures, and they've actually controlled it really well. Actually, if you look at Australia, let me show you Australia. Australia is doing really nice. Let's see, where's Australia? Where is Australia? I'll just go to Australia. No, there it is, Australia. So Australia, I think has, I don't know, I think like Canada, 30 million some odd people. I'm not sure what the population of Australia is. But if you look at Australia, they have essentially flattened the curve. So you'll see that they have basically, wow, there are No cases in Australia. There are no new cases today or yesterday at all in Australia. They have completely. They are just like the rest of. They're like North Korea. South Korea and Austria. They have essentially zeroed out the disease, and there's only 67 deaths in Australia, and they did it. And they were mentioning how they're beginning to relax social distancing, and I would imagine. Uh, Now they did it without a vaccine. They just did it by just reducing by doing social distancing and contact tracing. But they were able to effectively neutralize this problem. So 3 countries so far, I would say, have neutralized this problem effectively: Australia, Austria, and South Korea. They don't, especially Australia. They have no new cases at all. Now there may be a spike here and there. I would imagine a couple of spikes of new cases, but if you look at the curve, that's a flat curve. See that? That's a flat curve right there. That's what the whole world is looking for. And if we go logarithmic, there I go. It's even more pronounced. Flat curve. See? It's flat. So that's what people want. And if you look at, let's look at, okay, so that's Australia. Let's look at South Korea. Again, essentially a flat curve. And, or is a flat curve. And Austria, flat curve. Now look at the US. Not flat curve. Still beginning to flatten. Yeah, not bad. Beginning, at least it's not rising exponentially. So that's good. But beginning to flatten. That's a good thing. So even the U.S., the hardest hit, is beginning, but not as good as, say, Australia. And they did exactly what they should have. I think New Zealand also is doing really well, if I'm not mistaken. Let's see, where is New Zealand in this? There's New Zealand. So if you look at New Zealand, they're also flattened the curve, and they're basically, I think, 6 cases yesterday. That's it. 6 new cases. So it looks like these countries have really effectively stopped the coronavirus, and that means it's doable. If they can do it, everyone else can do it. And it's not just, oh, because population size is this so big, and we have. I don't think you can blame the population. I think that's faulty reasoning, saying, oh, because their populations are smaller that they did it that way. No, they did a concerted effort. Their entire population was serious about doing something, and their public health officials and their government and their leaders were not playing around. They actually did what they were supposed to do. They actually governed the country properly. They're not. I don't think they were playing politics, and I think what's happening in many of these countries around the world, especially the U.S., there's politics being played. So, any questions? No, no questions. But yeah, I would say the political games that are played daily in the U.S. is what's killing people. No one, as people seems, people play this. No one wants to take. People are not taking it. They're not taking the. They're taking it seriously, but they're not taking the effort to reduce the numbers seriously. So let's see any critical trends. So here's where cases are increasing. Where the cases increasing. That's just, I don't like that map actually. This is in the U.S. by race. Let's see, confirmed cases. I don't know what California shows them. No. No, I don't want that. Where is the outbreak growing? So that green line is the US. I think the number of cases, that's linear. Let's make it logarithmic. So that's good. So this is the number of cases. We want to, at least, so you'll notice if you look at linearly, it looks really bad. But if you go look at logarithmic, which is more appropriate, about the number of increases or flattening curve, this is what we're looking at. Now China is, I think, an outlier. I don't know. I don't actually believe that they're flattening the curve in China. I don't know what they're doing in China, frankly. There's a lot of misinformation in that country, and the Communist Party in China likes to play games with everything. They like to hide and lie about stuff. So I don't believe one word that they have to say. But let's see. And here's the curve flattened. Here's the same thing. And this is showing daily new cases, 5-day moving average, and you can see the U.S. is beginning to go up and down, up and down. That's good. And they're showing this one. I like to sort of like just to sort of show you what's happening in the U.S. The 5-day average is moving down. In Italy, it's slightly moving up. It looks like France is moving up. Spain, but the total number is much less here in these countries than they say the U.S. So let's see if there's any questions anyone's asked. No new questions. Okay. And then this is just the Canadian website showing the Canadian, um, and the world is the world. Confirmed cases worldwide, and they're showing the most numbers, of course, in the U.S. They're just in where the numbers are the most, and so this can be somewhat of an inaccurate picture. So let's see. Is there anything else? Today could be a short day. Since there's no new questions. Let me see if there's any. Go back here for a second. Let's see. Let's see. No, that's nothing there. And I could talk about any of those regular topics that I have. Let's see. Hold on. Let's see. No, I don't want that. I could talk about skincare, I guess, as a sort of a side topic. I'm not sure if I have already or not. No, I think I have spoken about this. That's something I'll talk about later on too. But let's see. Pain medicine. Preventive health, dealing with fatigue, food allergies. Oh, we could talk about food allergies. So this could be a side topic since coronavirus is still sort of where it is at. So for food allergies, I guess I'll just end with this. So, and this is sort of along the lines of coronavirus about the immune system, what have you. But okay, so a food allergy is a reaction that the body has to certain foods, and any food can make you allergic, can cause an allergic reaction. So the most common foods that cause allergic reactions are eggs, milk, peanuts, soy, fish, shellfish, tree nuts, and wheat. These are the most common foods. And how do you usually know you have a food allergen? Usually you'll experience nausea, vomiting, diarrhea, or abdominal pain. And that's one thing, but the more serious ones are those that involve the respiratory system. So I actually had a patient who he actually was allergic to bees. It's not the same thing as a food allergen, but it's sort of similar, and that's why it's so serious. So if he gets stung by a bee and he doesn't have what's called an EpiPen, then what can happen is his throat begins to close and he can't breathe properly, or his lungs get really full of fluid. So when it involves the respiratory system, that's when allergic reactions are so dangerous. Usually, how it begins is people have rashes or hives. Hives are these bumps on your skin, red splotches or red bumps on your skin. That's when you have hives, and rashes are just redness. Hives are also raised. After that, people can experience breathing difficulties such as wheezing, coughing, shortness of breath, and extreme difficulty with breathing. So what's happening is the lungs, the tissue around the lungs, are getting more and more edematous or full of fluid from the histamine that's being released by the mast cells, which are part of the immune system, and they're getting activated by an allergen. So an allergen comes in, it activates the mast cell within the body, and then that releases histamine. That histamine then makes the capillaries leaky and allows the fluid from your blood supply to go into the tissues. And if it goes in the tissues of the lungs, there's only so much place for those fluid to go, and then eventually it starts blocking off your airway, and that's why people have difficulty breathing and it's very dangerous. So usually the best way of diagnosing this is creating a food journal. This is actually something you can do before going to your doctor. Create a food journal, just like you can do for sleep insomnia. You can leave a sleep journal. But what you're trying to do is you're trying to find triggers. That's what you're really trying to do. And you're trying to avoid those triggers. Another way of diagnosing this thing is, how is the food prepared? Is it cooked, raw, or what ingredients are being used? So that's that. Family history of food allergens. So if your mom was allergic to milk, maybe you're allergic to milk, something like that. And what makes these allergies worse? Alcohol is going to make them worse. Ibuprofen, NSAIDs can make this worse. So don't, if you have an allergic response, don't take ibuprofen. Um, and so, and one way we can, and then one way we can diagnose them in the office is we can do blood tests, or we can do skin pricking tests to see if you are experiencing um, what allergies you're experiencing. I can tell you for myself, I did the skin prick test long ago, and I found out that I'm very allergic to various trees um, in the environment that caused me to go, and also cats. I discovered I'm fairly allergic to cats, but not dogs. But the allergist, the my allergy doctor said that, well, the reason you're not allergic to dogs is because you've never been exposed to a dog, so that's why. He said likely if you were exposed to a dog long enough, you would also be reacting to a dog. But how do you manage the food allergens? Well, first of all, there's no cure for food allergy. Um, the only thing is not eating that food. So if you're allergic to shellfish, don't eat shellfish. There's I'm not sure if you've ever watched this movie. It's called Doctor Dolittle with Eddie Murphy, and he plays a doctor in that. And one of his patients eats shellfish, and she has all these various excuses about eating shellfish. About, oh, I took it out of its shell, or I did any kind of shellfish that person was never supposed to eat. So something here. The treatment. So if you're allergic to peanuts, don't eat any peanuts ever. Don't have any foods with peanuts. That's also why they've removed peanuts from a lot of airline snacks, and also I've heard McDonald's, if you get their Sundays, they don't give you peanuts anymore because people are allergic to peanuts. You should read, and that's why you should read food labels. So you have to see if this food or this thing that you're about to eat was maybe made in a place where nuts are in use. So if you ever look at a chocolate bar, you'll sometimes see that it says in small print that this chocolate was made in a factory that has nuts. So that means that yes, this chocolate doesn't have any nuts, but if you're allergic to those nuts, this chocolate may cause you to have an allergic reaction. So don't eat this chocolate. Another way is not to cross contaminate, so don't share utensils or fryers. And in emergency situations, I've mentioned this a little bit, is to use an EpiPen. These epinephrine is basically adrenaline. It's like it's the fight or flight response hormone, and you can inject this. You can have a vial of this and have this auto injecting pen that you just sort of stab yourself into, and it'll go away. If the symptoms are a little bit like rashes or hives and you want them to go away, best bet is an antihistamine, and a good one actually is Benadryl. Just watch out, it'll make you sleepy. But Benadryl is actually our go-to even in the hospital. When people are having allergic reactions, we will give Benadryl to help reduce the inflammation and the start of the immune system. But if the throat is closing off, you need to go to the hospital immediately. And if you have access to an EpiPen, using epinephrine or using the EpiPen. Let's see if there's any questions. Oh, let's see. There is a question. Let's see. So the question I heard, in China offered Pakistan vaccine for coronavirus. If I understood correctly, they want to try out the vaccine in Pakistan as a trial. Please clarify. I have not heard this or read this, but it doesn't make it would not it makes it's a possibility. I'm sure that this is happening. I'm not sure what you want to clarify. If I understood correctly, they want to try the vaccine. That could be a possibility. That they could, China. I wouldn't put it. And here's my cynical side. I wouldn't put it past anything to Chinese, and they may use Pakistan as a guinea pig. Let's put it into a large population and see what the Pakistanis are like. And if it works for them, great. Let's use it on ourselves instead of using it on our population. Now, that's very cynical. Maybe they have a good coronavirus vaccine, but at the same time, if they do, they should be telling people they should be telling the world. Although I have heard from other people I follow on YouTube who used to live in China that the many Chinese um, uh, many people in China would bring in like lots of like the gloves or masks just so that they knew. There's some like shady things I've heard that China's been doing. Anyway, I don't know how to take this. Frankly, I if I was Pakistan, I would use the best doctors that they have to legitimately look at this issue and see if indeed this vaccine is good and if it's safe. And I would ask China, how can you prove that this is a safe vaccine for our people? How many people have you used this in your population? But at the same time, I think Pakistan should make its own vaccine. I don't think they should wait for China to make them a vaccine and give it to them. The Pakistani doctors should make, or the public health officials should be, or scientists, or biotech companies in Pakistan should be developing their own vaccine and trying to determine how best to help each other or help themselves. I would not, if China has a good vaccine, sure, but I have never heard of this. Um, but I would be somewhat very, I can actually look it up, but I would be very wary of China offering Pakistan a vaccine. Let's see, let's put vaccine and let's put Pakistan and let's see what comes up on Google. It looks like this looks like something Economic Times. I don't know who the Economic Times is. It looks like it's a Indian. Um, let's see, a newspaper who's stating this. So, major Chinese pharmaceutical has invited a premier health institution collaborating and conducting clinical trials in the recent development of inactive vaccine in Pakistan. Media reports on Thursday. Um, mm, I don't know. Let's see. By general, okay. No action says that although no action will be taken in the collaboration with the Chinese pharmaceutical, great thing for Pakistan. We want to increase um, number of laws before it can start. It has to be approved by the ex-committee. So it looks like Pakistan is using their best, um, is using their own scientists to determine if this is indeed a safe drug or a safe vaccine. Says the benefits of the clinical trials in Pakistan. Um, so it looks like, um, but it doesn't state if the company, let's see, produces more than 8% of the mandatory immunization. Um, have been combined to speed up. Um, um, it looks like this is an untested vaccine, frankly. Frankly, it looks like this is an untested vaccine that they want to incorporate Pakistan's population also to help figure out if this is going to work. Um, I don't know. I'm If it helps, it helps, but um, there is. I would say this is just them trying to figure out if this will work. I think all they're trying to do is they're trying to increase their sample size of people who they can test this vaccine on. Is there any issue regarding guinea pigs or not guinea pigs? I don't know. That's pretty cynical to say that they're doing that just for that, but at the same time, um, Pakistan and their doctors and their public health officials should use um, I would say caution to make sure this doesn't hurt people of Pakistan, as opposed to just like anyone else. If China offered this to Canada or America or Australia or what have you, but I would say this in regards to Australia and what have you, Pakistan and every other country should do contact tracing. What they should really be saying is, all these countries should be saying, where is the testing? This vaccine is sort of like it's a little bit untested. You need to test it. I'm not saying you don't stop doing this, but I think we already have a method of stopping this virus already. Um, It's just more work, but it is a safe way to do this without hurting anybody by just doing contact tracing, isolation, treatment, and stopping the spread of this disease. Um, it's sort of like, I would say, I equate it to sort of like HIV, in the fact that HIV we don't have a cure for, we don't have a vaccine for, but through public health methods, we have in the United States significantly halted its progression to almost nothing. So I would say just to use one avenue as vaccine is it should not be done. You should do multiple ways, and you already have a proven way with social distancing, contact tracing, figuring out who has the disease and isolate that person and figure out who those people contacted, and then figuring out if they're positive, isolating them, and figuring out those people who are again contacted who were positive, figuring out who they contacted, and keep going back and back and back, and basically halt this disease from spreading. And that's a safe way of doing this. Vaccine is good, but we have a method already that's not sure. Vaccines would be the best, but it has its things. I'm weary with one country using another country to test their vaccine. Plus, China has over 1 billion people. Why, and just why offer to just Pakistan? Why not offer to Australia or Japan or Mongolia or what have you, or India? I don't know. I don't know. Basically, we've come to the end of the hour. Let me switch this thing real quick here. There we go. So we've come to the end of the hour. Again, thank you for the questions. If you know other people that are interested in any of this kind of information, let them know that I've been doing this. And if you have any questions or issues that you would like to have addressed, please feel free to leave a message. And you can also direct message me, I believe, on YouTube. And if you can't, let me know, but I think you can. Also, I don't know if people want a different time. Do you want me to change this? Do you want me to change it from 12:30 to 1 to something else? I don't know. The reason I picked 12:30 to 1 was because it's lunchtime for most people in the Pacific time zone. I know it's 3:30 in the Eastern time zone, but I can make it different times if people want to, because the viewership is a little bit low, but I know it takes time to build viewers or what have you. But if the more people subscribe, the better. And liking and sharing the video, letting people know. And if the time is too long, you can also let me know. Oh, make it only 10 minutes. I can make it 10 minutes. I don't have to speak for 30 minutes. But I just do that so that people, if they're sort of doing lunch, they can sort of catch up or what have you. But yeah, this is Dr. Abdullah signing off. Thank you very much, and I'll see you guys tomorrow. Thanks. Bye bye.